There is a story older than time itself, a tale not confined to the dusty scrolls of antiquity or the cold carvings of temple walls, but one that echoes in the silent chambers of the soul. It is the story of Horus, the falcon-headed god, son of Isis and Osiris, the celestial avenger, the eye that never sleeps. But the version you've heard is incomplete, diluted, stripped of its deeper resonance. Because Horus is not just an Egyptian myth. He is an ancient symbol of something far greater, of cosmic balance, spiritual warfare, and the eternal dance between light and shadow, within and without. His eye, the famous Eye of Horus, is not just a charm of protection worn around necks or painted on tombs. It is a sacred diagram of consciousness itself, a blueprint of perception and inner awakening, a key to realms most never dare to unlock. The story of Horus wasn't written to entertain or even to merely preserve history, it was encoded to awaken. His battles with Set, the god of chaos, are not just divine skirmishes in some forgotten myth, they are allegories for your own inner struggle. His death and resurrection were never meant to be read literally, but spiritually, as a mirror of your own path to ascension. What if I told you that hidden within the myth of Horus lies a profound spiritual technology? That this ancient tale, recited under moonlight along the Nile, still holds the power to transform the modern seeker? That every triumph, every symbol, every ritual surrounding Horus was designed not just to tell a story, but to initiate you? In this video, we will journey far beyond the surface. We will explore the origins of Horus in the dawn of civilization, decode the esoteric layers buried within his mythos, and reveal how his archetype lives within you, waiting to rise. We will uncover why his story was hidden in plain sight and how reclaiming it can reshape your spiritual path. Prepare to see through the eye that sees all. This is the full story of Horus, and every spiritualist must know it. To understand Horus, we must first journey back, far beyond recorded history, to a time when myth and reality were one, when the gods walked among mortals, and the Nile had yet to carve its eternal path. Ancient Kemet, what we now call Egypt, was not merely a cradle of civilization, but a living mystery school. Its temples were more than architectural marvels, they were repositories of spiritual technology, encoded with sacred geometry and alchemical wisdom. In this sacred landscape, Horus was born, not just as a deity, but as a symbol, an archetype carefully constructed to guide initiates through the great work of inner transformation. Horus emerges from the mythic cycle known as the Osirian drama, a spiritual allegory as intricate and profound as any sacred text. His father, Osiris, the embodiment of divine kingship, order, and fertility, is betrayed and dismembered by his brother Set, the chaotic force of ego, violence, and entropy. Isis, the great magician and divine mother, retrieves Osiris's scattered parts and conceives Horus through an immaculate act of sacred union. Thus, Horus is not just born, he is resurrected into existence. He is the child of divine order and spiritual will, conceived not through physical means, but through intent, magic, and mystery. This myth was not told simply to explain the seasons or entertain children around a fire. It was designed with precision, as a map of the soul's journey. Osiris represents the higher self, often torn apart by the forces of the ego, symbolized by Set. Isis embodies the intuitive, alchemical power within us that seeks wholeness. And Horus? Horus is the awakened self, the spiritual warrior birthed when wisdom and will converge. His battle with Set is not merely revenge, it is the eternal conflict between darkness and light, ignorance and gnosis, chaos and divine order. It is the same struggle every seeker must face within the temple of their own mind. In ancient Egyptian temples, initiates did not merely worship Horus, they became him. Through ritual, fasting, and silence, they reenacted his trials, imbuing their spirit with his essence. The Eye of Horus was used not just as protection, but as a symbol of spiritual perception, a reminder that to see truly, one must transcend the limitations of the flesh and awaken the inner sight. Every line in that eye, the spiral, the tear, the curl, was encoded with mathematical proportions and cosmological insight, pointing towards something far beyond the material. But over millennia, this truth became fragmented. As empires fell and new religions rose, the myth of Horus was either demonized, co-opted, or lost in the sands of time. The Greeks reinterpreted it, the Romans diluted it, and later scholars misread it as mere folklore. Yet the initiates, the mystics, the hermeticists, the alchemists, preserved its essence in secret. They knew Horus was not merely a god of the Nile, but a universal archetype. They saw him echoed in Christ, in Krishna, in Mitra, in every being of light who triumphs over darkness through inner realization. This is why the story of Horus has been misunderstood, even feared. Because to truly understand it is to awaken to a deeper reality, a truth that threatens the false powers of the external world. Horus invites you not to believe, but to remember. Not to worship, but to become. His myth is not a bedtime story, it is a blueprint. A code for spiritual rebirth buried under symbols and allegory, waiting patiently for you to see with the eye that sees all. To begin truly unlocking the mystery of Horus, we must first recognize that every character in the myth, the gods, the monsters, the allies and enemies, is not merely a being outside of ourselves, but a symbol of inner forces. Horus, in this light, is not a god to be adored from afar but a state of consciousness that each of us is destined to embody. His story is not just about events that happened then or there, but a spiritual process unfolding within you, here and now. Horus is often called Haru in ancient Kemetic language, meaning the distant one or the exalted one. This is no accident. He represents the part of you that has not yet fully awakened, the higher self that exists in potential, observing from above like the falcon soaring across the heavens. The falcon is not just his animal form, it is his essence, vision, clarity, sovereignty over the skies. In ancient symbology, birds are often messengers between worlds, and Horus, as the falcon, bridges heaven and earth. He is the observer within you, the part that sees beyond illusion. Now consider his birth. Horus is conceived only after Isis, the divine feminine principle of intuition and alchemy, gathers the dismembered pieces of Osiris. This act is not just mythical, it is metaphysical. In spiritual terms, your higher self, Osiris, is often fragmented, forgotten, sacrificed by the ego, Set, that seeks dominance in the material world. It is only through the inner work of the sacred feminine, healing, integration, and intentionality, that you give birth to a new level of consciousness, Horus. He is not born of lust or chance, he is born of purpose, of will aligned with spirit. From birth, Horus is hunted by Set, the tyrant god of chaos. This, too, is symbolic. When the awakened self is born within you, it is immediately met by resistance. Old patterns, internal shadows, limiting beliefs, all rush to destroy this fragile, rising light. This is not a punishment, it is a necessary confrontation. The hero's path is not easy because growth demands friction. Horus survives only through protection, nurturing, and preparation. He is hidden in the marshes, raised in secret, trained by his mother and the gods of wisdom. This is the incubation of awareness, a period of retreat and refinement before the great battle can begin. In this hidden phase, Horus is not yet the warrior. He is the potential of a warrior, still vulnerable, still learning. And just like you, when you first step onto your path of inner growth, you are not yet ready to confront the full magnitude of your shadows. You require mentors, signs, sacred texts, synchronicities, your own Isis, Thoth, and Hathor, to prepare you for the inevitable encounter with Set, the chaotic force that will not surrender easily. But the most powerful symbol in this phase is the Eye. The Eye of Horus, also called the Wedjat, is said to have been torn out during his battles with Set and later restored by Thoth, the god of wisdom and magic. This eye, divided into 6 parts, each representing a sense, sight, smell, hearing, taste, touch, and thought, is not merely anatomical. It is cosmic. It signifies the reclaiming of divine perception after it has been damaged by trauma, conflict, or illusion. To have your eye torn out is to lose clarity, to be deceived by the world of forms. To have it restored is to regain inner sight, gnosis. In fact, the restored eye is more powerful than before. Because wisdom forged through battle is deeper than innocence untouched. Horus becomes whole not in spite of his wound, but through it. And so must you. Your pain, your losses, your chaos, they are not meant to destroy you. They are initiations. They are your personal set, forces that test, refine, and ultimately awaken your Horus self. And this is only the beginning. As Horus matures, so does the intensity of his trials. The battle between Horus and Set is not a single event, it is an ongoing, cyclical war that mirrors the ancient rhythm of the cosmos, day and night, order and chaos, death and rebirth. In myth, their conflict stretches over 80 years. A symbolic number, not to be taken literally, but spiritually, representing the long, arduous journey the soul must endure to claim its divine throne. Each confrontation is layered with esoteric meaning, and every twist in their struggle holds a mirror to the psyche of the initiate. What many overlook is the paradox embedded in this myth. Set is not just the villain. He is the necessary adversary. In the deeper mysteries, Set was not purely evil. He was force without form, the raw untamed will of the ego, which when harnessed, becomes power. Without Set, there is no contrast. Without opposition, Horus cannot awaken. This is a universal law. Illumination only emerges from tension. The alchemists knew this well. The nigredo, the blackening stage, always precedes the albedo, the whitening, or enlightenment. The Set within you, the voice of fear, doubt, rage, and selfishness, is not your enemy to kill, but your shadow to integrate. Horus does not merely defeat Set, he subdues him. He brings chaos into balance. One of the most striking yet misunderstood episodes in this battle is the trial held before the gods. A celestial court is convened to decide who is worthy of ruling, Horus or Set. It is here that the gods themselves seem divided. Even Ra, the sun god, hesitates. This is a hidden teaching in itself. Divinity does not force evolution. You must earn your throne. Spiritual sovereignty is not given, it is claimed through inner mastery. The trial is not just a test of strength, but of wisdom, resilience, and sacred intention. Even more enigmatic is the controversial myth in which Set attempts to assert dominance over Horus by violating him, an unsettling moment, rich in symbolic meaning. While disturbing on the surface, this tale conceals a deeper teaching about spiritual corruption and purity of will. Set tries to plant his seed, his energy, into Horus, symbolically attempting to hijack the emerging consciousness with the lower, egoic force. But Isis, representing divine wisdom, thwarts the attempt. She captures the essence of Set and uses it against him in court. This scene, decoded esoterically, teaches us that the awakened self must be vigilant. Even when the ego disguises itself as power or pride, it can still attempt to infiltrate the soul's progress. Only discernment, the inner Isis, can neutralize it. Then comes the moment of the eye. In battle, Horus loses his left eye, associated with the moon, while Set loses a testicle, symbolizing a loss of unchecked virility, egoic impulse. The restoration of Horus's eye by Thoth is not just a healing, it is an initiation. The left eye, tied to intuition, becomes more powerful through loss and return. The mystics interpreted this as the opening of the third eye, the seat of higher vision. In Egyptian numerology, each part of the Eye of Horus represents a mathematical fraction, and when combined, they do not total a full whole. One piece is always missing, until divine magic completes it. This missing fragment symbolizes what cannot be attained through logic alone, spiritual grace. Eventually, Horus is crowned king, not just over Egypt, but over the two lands, the inner and outer realms. He becomes the ruler of the seen and the unseen. And Set? He is not destroyed. He is placed on the solar bark, the boat that carries Ra across the sky, to fight the serpent Apep in the underworld. This is the true esoteric key. The ego, when mastered, becomes your servant. The darkness within you, once purified, becomes fuel for your ascension. Set becomes a protector of the divine order, no longer in rebellion, but in alignment. This is the completion of the great work. But perhaps the most profound truth lies not in the myth's events, but in its purpose. Horus is not a destination. He is a process. A divine becoming. His story doesn't end with his coronation, it begins there. Because once you awaken your Horus self, the real journey begins, the journey of holding light in a world still ruled by shadows. That is why every age must rediscover this myth. Every seeker must walk this path. Every soul must learn to see, not with the eyes of flesh, but with the eye that perceives all. You are not merely meant to learn about Horus. You are meant to become him. Now that you've glimpsed the deeper truth hidden within the myth of Horus, the question arises, how do you live it? Myth alone is not enough. The ancient priests of Kemet understood this. The story was never meant to be passively admired, but actively embodied. Every line carved into the walls of temples, every rite performed under starlight, every symbol inscribed upon the eye was a map, not just to Horus, but to the Horus within. And that map still functions, if you know how to read it. Begin with the eye. The Eye of Horus is more than an amulet, it is a tool of initiation. In meditation, visualize it, each segment representing a different sensory gateway. Focus first on the eye's spiral, the symbol of smell. Inhale deeply. Let the breath awaken your primal awareness. Move next to the curved line of taste, then to hearing, sight, and finally to thought. As you focus on each sense, allow yourself to detach from it, not to dull it, but to transcend it. This is the process of awakening inner sight. The eye becomes a mirror, showing not the world, but your true self. This is the activation of Horus, the shift from passive observer to conscious creator. If you want to invoke Horus in daily life, create your own morning ritual, not as superstition, but as sacred alignment. At dawn, face the east, where Horus rises with the sun. Speak aloud a personal invocation, not a chant you found in a book, but your own words, spoken with intent. Call upon your highest self, the Horus within, to lead your day. Light incense or burn resins like frankincense and myrrh, both used in ancient Egypt to open the higher chakras and invoke celestial frequencies. Place the Eye of Horus where you can see it, not as decoration, but as reminder that you are not your emotions, your past, your wounds. You are the watcher, the seer, the divine child born of spirit. Shadow work is also essential, because Horus is not whole without Set. Journal your fears. Name your inner saboteur. Ask yourself, what part of me resists the crown? The ego doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. It pretends to be your protection, your identity, your success. But Horus teaches discernment. You must learn to spot the ego's disguises and call it out, not with hate, but with awareness. Only then can you, like Horus, subdue Set, not by suppression, but through integration. Another practice is silence. The ancient initiates spent days, even weeks, in sacred silence, listening for the voice of the divine. In our modern world of noise and distraction, silence is revolutionary. Set thrives in confusion, but Horus emerges in stillness. Set aside time weekly, sit in complete silence and watch your thoughts. Do not chase them. Let them pass like clouds. This is where the eye strengthens. This is where perception shifts. You may also work with symbols. Create a simple altar, nothing elaborate is needed. A candle for light. A stone for earth. A feather, like Ma'at's, for truth. A small falcon image or drawing for Horus. Use this as a space to reconnect with your intention, to walk as one who sees clearly, who acts from the divine will, not personal craving. The ancient priesthood believed the sacred and the mundane were not separate. Making tea, walking barefoot on earth, even speaking truthfully, all were rituals when done with consciousness. And finally, remember, Horus is not reached once. He is remembered daily. Every time you choose clarity over chaos, presence over reaction, courage over fear, you crown Horus anew. Your life becomes the temple. Your choices, the offerings. Your awakening, the myth reborn. This is not metaphor. This is not fantasy. This is the sacred path of the inner warrior. And it is waiting for you, not in some distant land, but right now, in the stillness between your breath, in the fire behind your eyes, in the silence that follows the question, who am I, truly? So now, we arrive at the threshold, not an ending, but a return. A return to yourself, with new eyes. The story of Horus is not just mythology etched into stone. It is a living archetype, a spiritual blueprint, that speaks to every soul walking the path of awakening. From his divine conception to his harrowing battles, from the eye that was torn and restored, to his final crowning as ruler of both worlds, Horus is you, at every stage of becoming. He is your pain and your power, your doubt and your discipline. He is the wounded child hidden in the marshes of your subconscious, and the sovereign king within, waiting for you to claim your inner throne. And Set, the force we've been conditioned to despise, is not your enemy. He is your mirror. The trial. The fire. The guardian at the gate of your own greatness. Without him, you would never rise. This is why spiritualists, seekers, and mystics through the ages have always returned to this myth, not to escape the world, but to understand it. The myth of Horus holds a profound truth, that light is not born from ease, but from the crucible of inner conflict. That to see truly, one must first be blinded. That to become whole, you must gather the broken pieces, not reject them. And that your highest self is not some distant dream, but a presence already within you, waiting for the moment you finally remember who you are. So the next time you see the Eye of Horus on a pendant, or carved into stone, or glowing in your imagination, pause. Breathe. And ask yourself, what do I see? Not with these eyes, but with the eye that sees beyond form, beyond fear, beyond illusion. The eye that watches from the seat of your own divine consciousness. This is your initiation. Your myth. Your awakening. The journey of Horus is not just something every spiritualist must know, it is something every soul must live. Now the question is, will you? If this message stirred something deep within you, don't let it fade. Share this knowledge. Reflect on it. Rewatch. Relearn. And above all, live it. Subscribe for more explorations into ancient wisdom and practical spirituality, where we unveil the secrets not meant to be forgotten, but remembered. Your path has always been before you. Now you have the eye to see it.